So here's the scenario. The Eagles are on the clock at 25. They tried to move up all night. They've tried to move back all night. They've had no biters either way. They are at 25. They are on the clock, and they are going to have to make a pick. Now, when they look at the draft board and who's available, they see Josh Jacobs. He's still on the board. They see a bunch of defensive tackles, defensive ends that are still on the board. But they also see a guy who has fallen, who should have gone higher, at least by most experts' account. And that is linebacker Devin Bush. He is sitting on the board. My question to you guys is this. Even if Devin Bush is sitting on the board, do the Eagles draft him?
Hail the cowboy, Mr. McLean. You Americans are all alike. But this time, John Wayne doesn't walk into the sunset with Grace Kelly. Scary Cooper, asshole.
Oh, Devin! Oh, shit! Oh, shit! That was crazy!
Happy trails, Hans.
Dallas still stinks.
Yo, everybody, do King Dingbat here, and I hope everybody's having a great Thursday still. I do. I'm having a great day, dude. I love this time of year. It's fun. A lot of stuff going on. We got NBA playoffs starting Saturday. Can't wait. Then we got the NFL draft. Can't wait. Then we got Avengers Endgame. Can't wait. Don't screw it up. Please, don't screw it up. Then we got Cobra Kai Season 2. Who knew that Daniel LaRusso was the jerk all along? You know, after seeing Season 1, I realized Daniel LaRusso was the dingbat from the beginning. Who knew? But I can't wait. I can't wait. All this stuff is coming out at the same time. It's going to be a lot of fun. No doubt about it. I can't wait. But, you know, in my pre-intro, I put a scenario out there. A scenario that, if it was to happen, I think would surprise a lot of people. Because the Eagles, historically, and I say historically, I'm talking about the last 20 years, okay? And really, when the Andy Reid era began, the Eagles really started to devalue the linebacker position. They really did. They had some good linebackers early in Reid's days, and they let him walk. Carlos Emmons, they let walk. Jeremiah Trotter in his prime. Okay, in his prime. They franchise tagged him, then they rescinded it and let him walk to a rival in the NFC East. Now, he blew out his knee and all that stuff was bad for him. He wound up coming back a few years later, but they had no problem letting a Pro Bowl middle linebacker walk. Okay, they let him walk. They didn't value Jordan Hicks that much. They let him walk. I don't even think they even made him offer. And I actually agree with them on letting Jordan Hicks walk because of his injuries. They won a Super Bowl without him. They don't value linebackers that much. It's just the way it is. So when we look at the historical precedent the Eagles have the last 20 years, they don't draft linebackers. So if Devin Bush is sitting, if he's sitting at 25 when the Eagles are on the clock, I don't think they're going to take him. I think they would let him walk. I really do. I think they would pass up on him because I don't think they want to pay a middle linebacker the money he would get even for a first round. I just don't think the Eagles would do it. Now, when I say that, I'm saying what they would do. Me personally, I would turn that card in so fast for Devin Bush. I would take him in a second. I mean, I value linebackers. I think linebackers are important. When I was growing up, it was Seth Joyner, Byron Evans, Jesse Small, William Thomas. There was good. We always had good linebackers. We just did. And then the history of the Eagles, they have some of the great linebackers of all time, Concrete Charlie. I mean, linebackers are important. But since Andy Reid took over, the Eagles do not value the linebacker position. Now, I wanted to address this because every video I do with the Eagles pretty much talking about the draft, people bring up the linebacker position. They bring up the Eagles got to draft a linebacker early. They got to draft a linebacker early. And on a personal note, my own opinion, I agree with you. When you say we need linebacker, I agree. But what I think and what they do are two different things. And when we look at the Eagles, they don't value linebacker. And here's what I mean. Like, we have a list of all the players that are known to have visited the Eagles, okay? Now, I'm not going to go through each individual players, but I did break them down by position. So, out of all the guys that have visited, 7 have been defensive linemen, 3 defensive tackles, 4 defensive ends. Then we have the running back position. The Eagles have had 5 running backs come so far. Miles Sanders, who I love. Darrell Henderson, who I love. Josh Jacobs, who I like a lot. These guys have all come, and I'll get into that a little bit at the end. They've had 4 offensive linemen come visit. They've had 4 wide receivers visit, which every one of those wide receivers, they have been brought in because they believe they can play the slot position, meaning that they don't plan on bringing back Aguilar long term. They're looking to replace him. And some of the guys they've brought in, they have been big physical slot wide receivers. So keep that in mind. Then they've brought in 3 safeties and 3 corners. So that's how it's been breaking down for the Eagles in terms of who they've brought in. They have not brought in 1 linebacker. Now, 1 linebacker has come in for a visit. Not that we've known, not that has been reported. So I think that shows you, when I look at this list, I'm pretty confident to say the Eagles in the first round will go defensive line, running back, wide receiver, offensive line, safety, and corner. Those are the possibilities in which I could see the Eagles drafting. Those are the positions that they will draft. It will be one of those group. You know what I mean? Now, I don't think it'll be a cornerback. I think it's possible that it could be a safety. I think it's definitely possible and becoming more and more likely that it may be an offensive lineman. A wide receiver, I think, is a chance. So if I had to rank by position, we'll do that. If I had to rank by position, what I think is the most likely, 1 being the most likely, I would say at number 1, defensive line. Number 2, I would say offensive line. Number 3, I would say wide receiver. Number 4, I would say safety. Number 5, I would say running back. And number 6, I would say corners. And that's how I think they value the position. Just from looking at who they've brought in, okay, and what they need, it makes a lot of sense. The wide receivers they've all brought. Paris Campbell, they believe, is a slot wide receiver. I love Paris Campbell. You bring him in the slot, I think there's a good chance that Aguilar does get moved. And if he doesn't get moved, he won't be back after next year. So they are looking to fill that position. On the defensive line, there's so many good defensive ends and defensive tackles. I really think they want to go up and get a good stud defensive end. I'm eyeing Montez Sweat, even a defensive tackle like Ed Oliver. I see them pulling a trigger on a big trade. Remember, in the first round, after you get out of the top 10, top 12, a 3rd round pick should move you up 10 slots. That's going by the draft value charts. You can find those online. I'll see if I can find one and put it in the description. But there are value charts that will tell you, this many points is a 3rd round pick and it equals 10 slots, that kind of thing. So I think the Eagles are going to try to move up. Now, the one thing I know is they have not had any linebackers come in to visit. Devin Bush is dropping on a lot of mock drafts. There is a real possibility that for some reason he could fall near or to the Eagles and they may skip him. It could happen. Prepare yourself. They have not brought in 1 linebacker. 1 linebacker. I think they won't go linebacker with the first 3 picks. I think they'll take a linebacker at the earliest, a 4th round pick. I really, really do. Now, that is not me saying I would do that. I would jump on a linebacker. Personally, I would probably take a linebacker. If Devin Bush fell to the first, I would take him. If a linebacker is in the 2nd round, I'd probably go linebacker 2nd round. So I'd probably go something like defensive line, linebacker, running back, something like that with my first 3 picks. I would definitely not wait till the 4th round to take a linebacker, but I think they're going to. It's just the history of this team in the last 20 years, and it's the fact that you look at the players they're bringing in, none of them are linebackers. None of them, unless they're trying to fake somebody out totally. they're not bringing in any linebackers to visit. So, definitely keep that in mind. Now, the other thing I want to talk about in terms of who they've brought in, we talked about how they're bringing a lot of wide receivers that are specifically for that slot spot, okay? Then they're also bringing in a lot of running backs that are complements to Joran Howard. The guys that are a little faster, could catch out of the backfield, a little more shifty. Guys that are a good, third down back. Guys that could be a perfect complement, like Tariq Cohen was for Joran Howard. That kind of guy. Miles Sanders, Darrell Henderson, who else? There's a bunch of guys. Josh Jacobs. Those are my top 3 running backs, by the way. I'm going to try to do top 5 wide receivers, top 5 running back, top 5 offensive tackles. I'm going to try to do that in the week leading up to the draft. But I'll tell you this right now. When it comes to running backs, Darrell Henderson I have ranked number 1. Number 2, I have Miles Sanders. And they're not that far apart. Miles Sanders is really good, okay? Number 3, I have Josh Jacobs. Okay, he is my number 3. And then I'll say 4 and 5. I'll give you something or some reason to watch the running back video when it comes out. So I won't tell you who 4 and 5 is. But they are looking for a complement to Joran Howard. And you can tell by the fact that they're bringing in 5 running backs. You can tell they're looking for slot receivers when they're bringing in big guys who are for the slot position. So when we talk about linebacker, I think the reality of the situation is the Eagles are going to take a linebacker probably from the 4th round on. I really don't see a situation in which they take a linebacker at 25 or trade up for one or trade back for one. And it's like I said, it's not because King Dingbat doesn't want a linebacker. I do. I would do it. It's because when I look at the guys that are visiting and the Eagles are showing interest in, not one of them is a linebacker. And then when you look at the historical precedence of the linebackers they have let walk, and the fact that they've never taken a linebacker in the 1st round in like the last 20 years, maybe longer. I don't know how long it's been. I think it's fair to say that the Eagles are not putting linebacker as a priority. Is this a mistake? Isn't it a mistake? Let me know in the comment section. With that said, take care. Talk to you later. And don't be a dingbat.